Welcome to the Vibrantly You podcast. We're your hosts, Megan Martineau
and Caitlin Cipriano. In this podcast, we talk about fitness and nutrition on your motherhood journey. Whether you are trying to conceive, pregnant, postpartum, or beyond, you are welcome here.
Nothing is off limits, and our goal is to support you in this important season of life so that you can feel vibrantly you. As a reminder, this information is not medical advice. Please see the show notes for more details.
Welcome back to the Vibrantly You podcast. Today, Meg and I are going to do two-part on our Cringey Trends series here. We talked about trends during pregnancy last time, and today we're going to be talking about trends that we see on the internet in terms of postpartum. And there's definitely a lot of these that we could have picked from, I feel like. I think this is such a vulnerable time for women, and a lot of like fears and insecurities come up. And so I think that hopefully what people can take away from this is that looking to really like reframe their postpartum experience in a different light. So, first up, do you want to talk about exercises that you hear to close diastasis recti?
Yes, so something that I see everywhere is like especially on like Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, like you'll just see like a quick little video clip and it's like do these three exercises to close your diastasis recti and they're doing like flutter kicks and like bicycle crunches and like I don't know, like a full dead bug holding a dumbbell. Like they're just very advanced exercises. And I have a lot of problems with it. I mean, first of all, I don't like these because they, like I said, are usually advanced exercises. And someone who is newly postpartum and found out that they have diastasis recti, they should not be doing those without doing some foundational work, learning proper breath work and pressure management. And I do want to be clear that there's like no exercises that are necessarily off limits for diastasis recti. It's all about how you do them and how your body performs them, like how your body responds when you do them. And so you have to like first do the foundational work of the breath work, learning pressure management. But again, you don't like see this kind of education or people talking about this in these videos. So I do think it can be harmful in that way. Like it could make it worse for people. But the reason why I think it's like a cringy trend is because you can't spot treat. That's not how the body works. Especially with diastasis recti, it is very complex. Like there's usually a lot going on. There are different muscle groups that need to be targeted. One person's, two-finger separation, what they need to do versus someone who has a four-finger separation is going to look very different. So severity, there's a big range in severity, and just blanketly being like, here are three exercises that you can do. It doesn't work. And you really have to take a full body approach with this. And it also takes time. It takes a lot of time. For some people, it can take years to feel like they have fully healed their core. They can do advanced abdominal exercises without having pain or excess pressure or like seeing coning or any of those things. And it also sets up the expectation of like you need to close the gap, which I don't love either because having a quote unquote closed gap doesn't mean anything. Some people have very weak cores and they don't even have an abdominal separation. So like that doesn't matter. You can still have a really strong and functional core while still having that separation. So I think that's like my issue with this trend is like it's missing a lot of context.
That's what I was gonna say too. I feel like when I see those videos, it's just like, you know, oftentimes someone who is like very fit looking, like performing these exercises. And so it feels like, oh, like if I do these, like you said, like more advanced core exercises that like, I can heal this, or I can, see an improvement here. And it's like what you said, so much about like really building the foundation and taking that full body approach and starting with those exercises and breathing so that things are functioning properly before you're advancing to things. It's like I feel like I'm just, 2 years and I'm starting bicycle crunch.
Right.
Like,
Like, I'm someone who has diastasis recti. I had it with both of my pregnancies. And so, because I had it in my first pregnancy, it was inevitable that it was going to happen the second time. And so, it's been a little harder for me to work on the second time because that tissue has been weakened twice. Right. And so, yeah, 2 years postpartum. And I'm like just now at a point where I'm like, oh, I can do these more advanced abdominal exercises comfortably. And guess what? I still have a little bit of a gap there. It didn't like fully close, and I don't expect it to. But I do think it just sets up really unrealistic expectations, like I said, and just makes people feel like they're failing when it inevitably doesn't work. And I know that people feel this way because I always look in the comments, and I'll see people be like, well, how many times a day do I need to do this? How many reps and sets? How many days per week? Like they're just hoping, like, okay, if I do this 3 times a day, every day this week. I'm gonna notice a difference next week. Or I'll even see people be like, I did this and it didn't work. And honestly, I'm not surprised when I see people comment that because I'm like, yeah, like it's not addressing anything. And I mean, I do think sometimes these videos are well intentioned. Like, I don't think people are doing it on purpose to try to mislead people. I think it's well intentioned, but again, it's just like missing a lot of context and isn't actually helping people in the end. So that's why I'm just like, can we stop doing this as a society? And I do want to offer some like, okay, well, what should you do? And so I think, like I said, you want to really start with like breathing and pressure management, and you do want to start slower. And I think it's really important to remember that this does take time. It does require a full body approach. So this means strengthening your entire body, not just dialing in on the abs. And remembering too that a lot of different exercises help with your core strength that aren't even like quote unquote abs. So that's why this total body approach can be really helpful. And I also think rather than getting fixated on, oh, I need to close my abdominal separation, focusing more on function. Like if you have a separation and you are noticing that like different exercises are painful or you're seeing that coning all the time and like you're feeling a lot of like pressure there and it's uncomfortable. Like I have had clients too that have like we've tried to progress an ab exercise and they're like, "Oh, that doesn't feel good. I feel pressure there." So instead trying to focus on like really increasing your core strength like slowly and systematically so you're not experiencing those things. Um and I mean, I know a lot of people talk about like back pain associated with diastasis recti, and this is like that's opening a whole other can of worms. But, basically, if you're experiencing symptoms that can be linked back to this, like really trying to focus on like symptom management and reduction and like putting your focus there rather than the aesthetic piece. And like the aesthetics are not bad. Like I know that it's frustrating when you do have an abdominal separation, like your belly looks different, like that's a fact. And so I know that that can be like frustrating, like waiting for things to kind of heal. But remembering that like as over time you do heal this, the aesthetics will come.
yeah. And I think too, just, I mean, whether it's diastasis recti or something else, maybe you're like feeling self-conscious about in your body, but just like you did just grow a whole human and you delivered it however you delivered it. And like that is a lot. Like that is such a transformation, you know, both physically and emotionally. And like, of course, it's gonna take time. Like if these fads like all kind of like circle back to that like bounce back culture that we
Mm-hmm.
talk about, and it's like, I just like really hope that we can get to like a place where we're not feeling that societal pressure of our bodies bouncing back and that we can really like reframe this to like I'm going to talk about the nourishment piece, but like just like you said, like the functional, like I feel stronger, like I'm feeling better, like these like really progressive things, not just the aesthetics. And obviously that's okay. That's not like bad. Like aesthetics aren't bad. You can want those things too, but just like focusing on the healing first is going to like help you get to that place.
Yeah. I think having patience is just really hard postpartum. And again, I think it comes back to that postpartum culture and like societal expectations. But you have to remember that bodies are slow. Like they take time to do what we want them to do. And this is normal. This is expected. I mean, think about even when you're not postpartum and you're like, oh, I want to, I don't know, like grow my biceps, right? Like it takes a long time and like constantly putting those biceps, like lifting heavier weights, like demanding more from them. Like it's not just going to be like, oh, I'm going to go do, this 3 times a week for a month and suddenly I'm going to have like these huge biceps, for think of like a bodybuilder, like think of how like
Yeah,
how hard bodybuilders work and like how long they are doing the same things like over and over to get the
right.
body to do what we want them to do. Like it's important to remember that like you're also postpartum. So it's going to take even longer because your body is trying to heal. You have hormonal changes happening. You are sleep deprived. Like maybe you're not eating the best that you should be. So, like, it's going to be slow. That's normal and okay. It doesn't mean that you suck.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. I think that's a good like place to transition into talking about like the fad diets while you're still like recovering and potentially breastfeeding. Um, because I think the two like tie hand in hand. I so often feel like I see people be like, what diets are we? What diets are we doing? You know, like,
All the time.
and I'm like, oh my God. Like, this is not the time to be focusing on a calorie deficit. You know, it is very nuanced if you are still breastfeeding. And if you really like don't have the background to be doing that, then, it can harm your milk supply. It can take you longer to like heal and longer for you to replenish the nutrient stores that you've lost during pregnancy. And so, like a lot of generic, plans where someone might be like, I'm going to do keto, for example. Like, you're not going to have enough carbohydrates and specific micronutrients to help with your energy, your recovery, your milk composition. Like, you're just not going to be in the space that you need to be in during this period. So it really should be about shifting to again, like focusing on how can I nourish and support my body and like fuel it. Like, if you're an athlete, like recovering from an injury or like a surgery or something, like you would not be put in a calorie deficit, like you would be like this should be like a calorie surplus where we're really focusing on what your body actually needs during postpartum. And I'm going to talk about that, but like I want to hear your thoughts too, Meg.
Yes. I have so many thoughts. Like so many thoughts just popped into my head as you were talking about that. Just even like the physical recovery, right? Like after surgery, like no one expects you to be like, let's jump into these super intense exercises. Like we need time, yeah, to let the body heal and replenish, like you said. Um, slowly get back into exercise, like bringing back the exercise piece. But yeah, I see so many people wanting to diet like right off the bat, and I think of you every time.
It, honestly, it just makes me feel so like sad. Like that as a culture, like women feel that way.
Hmm.
Like above like anything else because it's like this is such a like time in like other cultures where like moms are just really like cared for and held and like they have like such like other cultures have like these like specific like recipes and they're so like warming and nutrient dense and then like here we are like worried about like can I fit back into my jeans at 6 weeks postpartum.
Hmm.
Like, it's just such this like drastic difference. And it, again, like, I don't know, it just makes me feel so sad.
Well, and I think like we could probably do a whole podcast episode ranting about this, but I think it also comes back to just like we don't have maternity leave, like universal maternity leave. Like so many other countries, they're getting a year to 18 months to like stay at home with their babies, not worry about not having a job to come back to, getting paid to stay at home and take care of themselves. And
Yeah.
here it's like a lot of people are lucky to get 12 weeks unpaid. And I do think there is some level of also like feeling the pressure to that again, like bounce back, by the time
Yeah.
you go back to work. Because I also think that timeline of like maternity leave ending has now become synonymous with like I should feel normal and like regular again by the time my maternity leave is over. And also you're expected to, like when you go back to work, like no one cares that you just had a baby. It's like, okay. And then you're dealing with all the stress of returning to work and maybe you're trying to pump and like I said,
Yeah.
we could rant about that, but I
Oh my
think
gosh,
that
yes.
that definitely has that definitely plays a part in this, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be, dismissive to not address those components of this because it does make it a lot more challenging. But yeah, like the body actually does like really need a lot of support in this, especially immediate phase, but even beyond that, like it really does take time for your body to get back to, I don't even like using the word like normal, but maybe like recovered
Hmm.
state. Like a lot of research studies are saying from like a nutrient store and like brain like period, like 2 to 6 years.
Which is
Like it's pretty
crazy.
significant. I don't have one of those studies up in front of me, but I've seen several that outlay similar time frames. And so, you know, being able to again not focus on like perfection with things, but just being like intentional to be like, okay, I just gave birth. I need to focus on like protein for tissue repair. I, need to make sure that I am getting enough things like complex carbohydrates and healthy fats so that I can have more stable energy and support my milk production. And okay, yeah, I am breastfeeding, so my fluid needs have also increased, and so I do need more hydration to make sure that I'm being again supportive of what's going on in my body. And I'm sure that I have the episode on postpartum nutrition, but also breastfeeding nutrition. And so, da, 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 da. Where are these breasts? Oh, that's caffeine.
There's
And
one episode 36, breastfeeding
okay,
nutrition 101.
okay. I was like, I knew we had one. So maybe I need
Yeah.
to do some more postpartum
There is a breastfeeding and
nutrition.
hydration too. It's 23.
23. So we'll have to put together maybe some more postpartum nutrition episodes to focus in maybe on some more nutrient healing and things like that. But, you know, again, regardless, like this is just not a time where we need to be in a calorie deficit or that we need to be stressing about like shrinking back. Like you just went through again, like just a amazing transformation. And this is about like healing and like rebuilding so that you can be like supportive and like actually feel good like during this experience so that you can be present with your baby and navigate this pretty like challenging time.
Yeah, and it's funny, before we hit record on this episode, I was like, I don't know that these two topics relate together, but I think that they do now that we've
Yeah.
talked through them all. Because, yeah, like I think the key themes here are like focus on healing and taking the time to recover and slowly, getting back into things and remembering that your body has been through so much and it's just so unrealistic to expect, either to like drop weight super quick with like a diet or like have your abdominal wall like go back to quote unquote normal within like a couple months. Like these things take time, and it really is important to slow down and really focus on healing right now.
And I think that's a good way to wrap up this episode. So thank you all for spending time with Meg and I today. If you liked this episode and have a friend that you want to share it with, please send them over the link. We would be so grateful. And if you want to ask questions or connect with Megan or I, Megan is at Vibrant Mama Wellness on Instagram, and I am at Wholesome Huntress Nutrition on Instagram. And we will see you back next week.